Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining. We'll get going in just a moment. All right, let's kick this off. I'm going to share my screen. All righty, let's do this. Hello, Aaron. Thanks for putting this together. My name is Heather Horner. I'm the COO here at Form.IO, joined by Aaron Eaton. He is what I refer to as the Form.IO race car driver and our senior apps development. He's incredible. Put this webinar together. I'm going to go through some slides and we'll have a demo from him as well. So what are we covering here today? We have an enterprise form builder module, and we're going to talk a little bit about why enterprise form builder module exists and why we did this, a little history, and then we'll go into a demo and wrap it up with some questions and answers. We'd love your participation, so please feel free to put any questions in the chat or Q&A along the way, and we will definitely get to those. The more feedback, the better. We love to hear from you. So we'll kick it off. So I want to talk a little bit about Enterprise Form Builder module of, what does it give you and how do we think about it? But I think it's fun to think about how this began. And this was really about a lot of customer feedback and people coming to us over the years really wanting a form builder in their own application. There was a lot of different options that we have. We have the open source builder, of course, and that already is in production in a lot of applications and environments. We had Form Manager for a while, but our customers were coming to us and going, okay, hey, you know that thing where we go to the Form.IO form building portal and we build forms? We want that, but we want it in our own app and we want it white labeled and we want it connected to the platform. And there was all of these things that were coming out of this feedback, which was how Enterprise Form Builder module was born. And I was a part of that process several years ago, and now it's coming to market, and we're very excited. We already have a lot of traction and customers that have it in their applications, which is super exciting. And also, I think speaks to how many use cases that it solves, that it grabbed pretty quickly and solving a lot of pain for people. So this is a form building experience, and it's directly embedded in your applications. Just like we think about Form.IO having, building forms and the associated ecosystem that comes with forms and embedding those directly in your app for collecting data in a secure way. We wanted people to be able to build those forms in the same manner, following the same principles and practices and sort of values that Form.IO represents. This needs to be white labeled. And the applications where Form.IO lives, the branding for them needs to be present, not ours. You need to know that it's your experience and that you have control over that. The permission models, the RBAC, is very important. Forms and how you collect data matters, and how you do that in a secure fashion matters. And so having that connected to the existing platform RBAC that you can pass through to your application was very important. One thing with our builder that you'll, if you've been in there before, which most of you have from looking at the participant list, is that we have very generic components that you can then, during the build time of the form, personalize those components for whatever you want. Well, when you're offloading form building to someone else, one of your customers, you don't have the luxury of knowing even whether or not they're going to understand what an API property name is and what the implications are for changing that. You might not want them to have control over a lot of the settings that we offer. So you're able to configure the components and the builder to suit your business use case while keeping non-technical and technical builders on the rails, and keeping your data models intact. And that's all completely embedded within your application. So how does it work from an overview? Aaron's going to show this, but I just want to set it from more of a product perspective. It's very simple. You configure the actual builder and all of the settings within the portal, the Form.IO portal, and you embed that builder as this configured asset into your application. When we talk about Enterprise Form Builder module, there is actually a module that's a deliverable that you take and you bundle into your application. And that allows you to have a starting point for a lot of different things for form lists and submission lists and all sorts of fun stuff that Erin's going to show. But there's this two-sided scope to what we talk about when we talk about Enterprise Form Builder module. There's an actual tab, just like in the portal in the newer versions where this is released, where you have forms and you have resources, you have access different settings on your left navigation bar of the portal. You have a Form Builder Pro tab, and that's where you configure the builder as a development team to then embed later in an application. So what are you getting? You get governed form building. What does that mean? It means data collection matters. It means you can't afford to have data be collected in different ways by different people. Silly example, if you say to a bunch of different people, make sure that you collect people's names. One person might drag a field on and call it first name. One person might do first name and last name. One person might do full name, and those could be one or two fields. Well, if you're trying to send that data somewhere and you need it to be one or two fields, that's a big difference. And that is a silly example, but when that cascades out to the real world use cases we see, that can be a problem. And making sure that that's not a question in your mind of how data is collected is really important. So when you're form building, you're actually designing how you collect the data. And you can put that in Rails for your customer so you know what data you're going to get out of that by predefining components and predefining that builder to make sure that they don't even have access to touch what you don't want them to touch. That goes into probably the third point of keeping users on the Rails. It's really about meeting their needs, right? There's a lot of different use cases we see. Some people are more technical, some people are less technical. It depends on what that is. We see, I've seen a ton of healthcare use cases where these are clinicians, doctors, definitely technical in their own fields, not software technical. And they don't know what an API name is, and they should never have to care. I've got my emojis going, great. So hey, having those people have an experience that's right for them, meeting them where they're at, right? You're able to do that with this configuration. It's also synced real time to your Form.IO deployment. One of the things that we're seeing in the marketplace is people wanting the ease of having their customers build the forms, and should they need to go in there and do anything, that it's available in the portal in that backend office for the developers to have full control over whatever's going on. That's important. That's synced. When you embed this module, those forms are saved to the project it's connected to. So you can have different teams collaborate on this same function if needed. The forms are composable assets. These are predefined components themselves that are specific to your business needs. Again, this is going to keep people on the Rails, keep your data collected the way you want it to be collected, and erase a lot of headaches for scalability. I have some use cases here just to talk a little bit about, like, okay, so who's using this? What are we seeing, right? SaaS platforms. So we have a lot of SaaS platforms that are running Form.IO under the hood, or whatever that means. A lot of them are industry specific software platforms, and they have different customers log in and they need to be able to build forms. This is very common. We see that. And then it saves, for the different customers, when you're logged in as customer A, you're going to build forms for customer A, and you're going to save it to customer A's area. Then when they log in, they'll only see their own forms, et cetera. Internal teams. We see this a lot with, okay, if you have a form builder or a request for forms coming into your organization and it requires developers to build those forms, one, your developers are probably not super happy, because from what my experience, developers don't love building forms. They'd rather do something more interesting or more what actually brings value to the business. I think that the managers and leaders that we've seen as well is, I'd rather my tech team not be building forms for customers all day long. I'd rather them be focusing on what actually makes us money in our product. And so this allows, even if it's not an externally facing tool, sometimes it's an internally facing form builder. But then you have customer success teams, product people, sales, marketing, whatever that might be, building forms internally, even if it might be for one of your customers. That makes sense. So it's not always an externally facing branded, completely branded asset. That's like a customer user experience. That's in that first category of SaaS platforms. It could be internal as well. And then so those regulated deployers. I don't really know if I voiced this correctly, but if I think about like healthcare and fire data and any kind of uh, regulated data structure for the different industries that we see commonly, having those formats correct. So when data is collected and it gets piped onto other third party or external systems, that it's in the right shape, that's so important. And so what we're seeing is that companies want to make sure that when they expose form building as an experience or a service, that the data can be in the right shape when it goes on to those external services. So we're seeing a lot of traction in that arena as well. And I would love to hear if you guys have anything else that you're like, you're missing it. This use case is totally perfect. Throw it at us. Would love to hear it. With that being said, I want to hand it over to Aaron for a demo, and then I'll come back when he's done and I will go through how you can get your hands on it, what that means from that side of things, and then we'll do some Q&A and wrap up. So thank you for listening to my spiel. And now it is demo time with Aaron, and I will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so the reason for this demo is I just want to show you how easy it is to get started with the Enterprise Form Builder module. I'm going to be building this out with React, but all of this can also be done with our Angular EFBM library. In VS Code, I'm just starting out with a Vite application that has already been scaffolded out with a few pages and styles, only so we can focus on what's important and why you're all here. Also, I also have the developer portal, the Form.IO portal, running locally with a brand new project. So to get started, I'm just going to install the EFBM library. So it's Enterprise Form Builder React. That's not going to take long. Helps to spell things correctly.
Demo time. So you have to have at least one typo or something that works. So
Yeah, of course.
the rule.
All right. So in my main file, the only thing I'm going to do here is import some styles that come from EFBM. And let's take a look at the app. So we're able to log in here, and this login actually uses uh, the either the user or admin resource that is within the Form.IO project. So I'll log in here with user one. Okay, so we don't have much here, and that's expected. In my app file, I already have our routes and pages set up. I'm going to bring in what's called the Enterprise Form Builder Provider. And this component initializes the form builder environment, provides access to project configuration, authentication state, enables the React hooks, and a lot of other things that it gets wired up for us. That, and then we will excuse me, wrap our routes in all of this. And this component takes in two properties. So our license key And I already have this set up in an environment variable. We also need our tag. And so our tags can be used a few different ways. It can be used to separate out various user groups. And in that case, we could set this based off of some type of user data. Um, but in this case, I'm just going to keep it as a static tag, which I believe is just EFBM. And now we're ready to bring in the forms listing that will appear in our browser on the right, and as and the builder as well. So open up our forms list page. And this is a single component that we need to actually list out our forms. It's just called form list. And I will add it in here. It takes in a couple of different properties, but I'm going to wait to do those. Actually, it's not going to let me wait. So on view, just to make this quicker for a demo, I'm going to copy paste for us. So we're bringing in some event handlers. So on view, when we want to view a form, or on edit, that will send us to the edit screen. In this case, I'm just keeping them both the same. We also need another event handler for on view submission. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Save that. Okay. So what this component has done is it has reached out to our enterprise API server and is asking it, hey, do we have any forms tagged as EFBM? And of course, we don't have anything yet. Let's change that. I'm going to click on this new form button. And again, blank page. We need to bring in the actual form builder. Here, I'm going to import, again, just a single component. This one's called create forms. We need to pass in a form ID, which we can get from the URL. And then a event handler for when we save the form. What behavior do we want to happen? In this case, we're just going to navigate back to the forms listing. Okay. So in one line of code, we now have our full form editor, just like we're used to seeing in the developer portal. So let's build ourselves a very simple contact form. Let's call this first name. Save that. And email. Save. We'll save that form. Of course, we need a form title. Okay. So we have our contact form. Over in the developer portal, we can also see that it's right here. So anyone who has access to the developer portal can also come in and manage the form if needed.
And I
Just
like
finding
this. This
something
is
here.
like one of the, enterprise features that people were really asking for. Like we heard from a lot of people are like, we have the open source builder, but could you just make it easy on us where it's just connected to the enterprise platform and all the routes are set up to where things when they get saved, they're just in the project. We want to be able to see them. I think that's really powerful for companies who still need to have the control, easy control in a UI to get the at things when needed. But it's branded and white labeled inside of an app that's not Form.IO.
Yeah. All right. So just while we're here, I'm going to put in a submission because part of what the EFBM provides is not just form building and management, but also submission viewing and management. So I'll put my name in here. Please don't spam me. Okay. So we have a submission on our contact form. We can come in here, edit the form if we wanted to. We also have the ability to um, view our submissions. So again, blank page. Let's figure out how we can list those submissions.
So basically what you're seeing here, right? So correct me where I'm wrong, Aaron, but
Mhm.
we're giving really starter points for lists of forms. And now you're going to show like a list of submissions. So
Yeah.
there's these call them starter kits of there's a lot of things that we believe and we've seen right from all the people that are asking for this feature. There's some basic things that people are going to need. They're going to need a list of forms. They're going to need a list of submissions. They're going to need the form builder interface. They're going to need whatever those things are. And so we're going through these and they're really powerful because you don't have to start from scratch, and it's all wired up with all of the everything behind the scenes to say, yeah, when you list your submission, it's going to pull from this API. That's already wired up for you, right? And you're just sort of
Right.
plugging this in either Angular or React, depending on your framework of choice. We don't have Vue yet, which I did see in the Q&A. But yeah, so I think that this is really powerful just to show like my commentary of, what I'm looking at is really cool because there was a lot of people that are like, I only want to start from scratch. Of course, it's not that hard to build an app, but it's hard to build an app that's all wired up in the right way, connected to everything behind the scenes and making sure it's on the rails. And we've done a lot of that for you, right? Don't use your tokens on things you don't need to, people.
That's right. And while Heather was talking, I'm just adding so essentially wiring to make sure we can click on submissions and view those as well. So I'm just going to finish that up real quick. Okay, that looks good. And the component here is simply called submission data table. And it needs the form ID and on row click. Okay. And again, in one line of code, we have the table that allows us to view all of our submissions. Clicking on this submission actually directs me to another page. So if you wanted to view a single submission or even edit it, you're also able to do that. And on this one, I'm going to just copy paste for the sake of time. Okay, and bring in the submission viewer. And here we go. It's not well styled at the moment, but you can see we can see all the fields from the form, the data that was added to that submission. We're able to edit, delete, even view that submission as a PDF if that's something that we have enabled. And so that's pretty much the gist of the EFBM JavaScript libraries. One thing to note here, while I've used these large components, the EFBM library exposes all of its internals and provides a lot of hooks. So if you aren't a fan of this default UI, it's really easy to build up your own UI without losing the power of everything else provided in the library. And now I've shown the first half of what the enterprise form builder provides. The second half that Heather touched on was governance and customizations. Many times we provide our end users with something as powerful as the form builder. They can get lost in the details or really mess things up. So within the Form.IO portal, the Builder Pro page allows us to build in those guardrails to keep our users on the right path. Say we don't want our users to use the password component for some reason. We can come in here, remove password. We can even remove entire component groups, such as data. I'm going to save that and go back to our form. I believe I need to log out and log back in. Okay, so we no longer see the password component again, and our data component group is completely missing now. So our users can't have access to those. And maybe we don't want our users to mess with the API tab. If that's the case, we can remove tabs from form components completely. Additionally, if say we don't want checkboxes to have a tab index, we can even get really granular and remove specific field settings from access from our users. Our users will not be able to access some of these field settings. So that's kind of the end of the demo. I hope you can see
Yeah, and
how
if
quickly and easily. Yeah,
yeah, I would love for you to go. So in this tab, if you maybe could you make the screen a little wider so I can see it in a
sure.
big, beautiful way? Thank you. So on this tab, I think this is cool. Like if you scroll up a little bit, let me see where I'm at. I'm out of context right now. Okay. So in this, and we had a question about this of like, can you have like a really pared down version of the builder, right? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So this gives you this form options, and we have a lot of components that are already there if you want generic components. Most often I see really, really specific components. Like I gave an example in the Q&A, the question answered of there was like a marketing use case where they had different components and they didn't look like text field, text area, whatever.
Mm.
They said like LinkedIn URL. And then there was like a pre-configured select dropdown for like which campaign are you building this data collection for? And so it was like this internal marketing team builder, but it was really specific to what this team and this use case was about, what this app was for. And so they had pre-configured components, they had, that were totally tailored to the business use case, and they were all named what they wanted to name them. The API keys were already defined of whatever that might be. And, you can have different groups of them and yeah, so this, for example, is a predefined component. So you can go through this and really tailor like what type of component. Is it a text field? Cool. And then, what do you want to do? And then you can tailor like even to such granularity. Most people are like, I don't want the API tab. I don't want the conditional logic tab. I don't want the validation tab. All that's got to be preset. So they preset all the everything in it first. So when the form builder comes in, they don't even have to worry about things that might not be relevant or might break the application downstream, right? So there's incredible amount of like granularity you can have to these where in this UI where yeah, you have campaign URL right there. And if you wanted to, you could hide a lot of these options, like anything. we see a lot like hide everything with that's JSON or JavaScript. Knock it off. Don't let people do that. Keep it on the rails. And so we see some super intense customization on that. That's the point of this. This UI, looking at it, kind of like, okay, what am I even looking at? I'm looking at a sea of fields. But what you're looking at is a UI for the configuration of the form builder itself, which ends up being a JSON configuration. And we're enabling a UI for this configuration to the granular, setting level of a singular component that you've predefined. So that's that Builder Pro and that tab of what it allows you to do. So you can keep those use cases on the rails and really hone in on like just let people do something with ease, with no problems, not having to problem solve through, thinking about something in a technical way that doesn't need to be technical, right? So you can accomplish a lot with that configuration up front, and then use all of that and embed it in your application for whatever screens you want to take advantage of. Like you saw, like right away, you didn't have the submissions on there. If you didn't want to have submissions or you weren't using the Form.IO submission API, you just wouldn't take advantage of that part of it.
Mhm.
And that's okay. We see that a lot. Not everybody uses the MongoDB that the Form.IO deployment is attached to. We welcome that. That's definitely a thing a lot of people do, especially when they're sending data to different sources or downstream. Totally cool. You can take and choose sort of the pieces of this module, and that's the modular point of that, or that composable point of this module is really cool because you can take advantage of what you want to within this context. And you're looking at the code, you've got it, you can do what you want with it. And we've seen a lot of people doing some different extensions of things, and we welcome whatever it is that you want to do. So that's my spiel on that. So, Aaron, what else? Anything else from you?
That's it. I really just wanted to show how easy it was to get started. Takes almost no time at all. You'll spend more time designing it than you will hooking up the form building.
Yeah, totally. All right, so let me share my screen one more time and figure out what I did with my screen. Here we go. We only use Zoom for webinars, and so I'm like in Google Meet brain and I forget how to do my job, so bear with me. One moment. Almost there. It's giving me permissions problems now out of nowhere. Okay, and we're back. We left off. Last time we talked, we were on the demo time sled. Uh, Enterprise Form Builder module. Some people are using it, some people are not. Maybe you've never heard of it. It's an add-on to your enterprise configuration. And it's super easy to turn it on at any time for us. It is a flip of the switch. We would love to hear from you if you want to try it out. We are offering a 30-day free trial of it right now. So we'd love for you to confirm that the module works for you before you decide to buy. We're happy to do that. Just reach out to us at sales@Form.IO. Aaron did put his email on the demo at one point. He doesn't check his email, so just forget about him. I do. If there's anything you want to say, I also welcome communication. So that's really what all we have for today for the presentation. I do want to go into the Q&A. Before I do that, actually, I'm going to launch a poll real quick. I'd like to do these. Would you like more info? If you do, click yes. We'll send you a little note. No pressure. We're not going to come hound you, but we'll give you some information on that. And if not, you can select maybe later, or you can just not select anything at all. Whatever you feel like. I want you to enjoy this journey. So we are here for you, and we would love to give you any other information, demos, more granular question answering, etc. If it was, more comfortable for you on a one-on-one call, we'll set it up. We'd love to talk about it. This is one of my favorite product lines that we've come out with, and I'm super excited about it. So I appreciate that. Looks like we got some good answers in here. So I want to move on to, I will end that. I think everybody got in there, and if you missed it, then you can always just send a carrier pigeon to Heather@Form.IO and we'll send you some more information. But so we have some Q&A questions here. We have one about React Native. I would say no, we don't have a React Native EFBM. One, I would say form building itself with drag and drop and whatnot isn't super mobile friendly. Not something we hear a lot. And so not a priority for us, but we would also be happy to consider it at some point should it be asked for of like how you would go about with that kind of app. However, for React Native, because it's a component framework, sort of thinking about things in a non-Form.IO way, if that makes sense. Our JavaScript renderer renders within mobile applications. People are building them all the time. We think we should keep on that route. I would say my personal opinion is that form building on mobile is not a route that is great. It's not a great experience. There's some space that's needed for these things, and I think it's more desktop focused. Never say never, but that's what I have to say about that one. And then we had a question, is it set up to work with any CSS framework if you wanted to use Tailwind or instead of Bootstrap? Aaron, can you comment on that? I know that we've done this with BYO CSS for the forms. What about
Yeah.
EFBM right now?
So it's complicated. it you should be able to even before BYO CSS, you have complete access to style things any way you like. Changing up the classes that are used within EFBM is going to be a difficult and may create some problems for you. But you can use your style sheets to target the classes on the various HTML elements and style it that way.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Let's see. We have in Form Builder Pro, we have components selection to be shown or hidden, which is great, but it's also easy to get lost in the granular details. Do we have anything such as an audit log or quick checks where we can see what was hidden at a glance without going through each section? And this is for what? The builder itself, I would say everything's a JSON configuration. So conditional
Mhm.
logic is baked into the JSON. So I think it would be easy enough to sort of query that without having to do it through the UI. I get that. But I would say that would lend itself well to hanging out with Claude or someone like that and going through a JSON and figuring out where conditional logic might be, if that makes sense. If there's something else you want to know, I'd be happy to answer it. But that's how I read that one. Thank you for the question. And let's see. Is it also possible to preset that you can only just use, for example, the components that we already developed and give it to our users so a content manager can just drag in as a nested form? You could have a nested form component with components inside of it. And so if you have components that you've built and configured and whatnot, I think you could accomplish that. Would love to see more detail on that. We'd love to explore the use case of whatever you got going on. So I appreciate that. I think you can definitely get that there from here. And I want to have it where content managers and different people can bring exactly that, like groups of things over that are sort of predefined by your business scenarios, and that it's just an easy plop of different sections. And that we get that a lot of like groups of components, or, so that would be like a panel with a bunch of components inside of it, or whatever that might be, right? And so you can nest things in Form.io. So if that's part of the pre-configured drag and drop, then you should be able to do that. And if there's a use case that you want to see and isn't supported yet, we want to hear about it and we will take a look. Okay, a couple more and then we will be almost at time. We did the timing on this one better than the last one, Aaron. I am proud of us because the last one we gave a little too much time. It was about the BYO CSS. We did the white labeled, standard template that we came out with, which makes it easier to depart entirely from Bootstrap, for example. And we gave it like an hour, and we had like 15 minutes left, and we were like, okay, well, bye, bye. So we did a good job, and I'm really proud of us for that. Question here. If we already have custom built Form.IO components, think kind of similar. If there's custom built Form.IO components or modified versions of standard components in our current implementation, can those be registered and used inside Enterprise Form Builder module, or do they need to be rebuilt specifically for the Enterprise Builder? They should be the same. So I want to say that if you've already pre-configured them, you've done a good job, and we will figure out how to get them in there. The configuration again is a JSON schema. So I would assume that we could probably do something along the lines of importing that somehow or via API, whatnot. I don't have the exact technical answer on that, but I could give you a more information later. But I would say yes, I want that to be very supported in an easy way. So I really love it. Um, Can you change the change the language or set translations of the Form Builder Pro in the portal? So that has to do with translating the portal itself. Yes, you can. You can translate the portal. So we have a way to do that. It's in our help documentation. I could find that link if I were a little quicker with my thumbs right now. But yes, if you search help.form.io, we have portal translations. And because it's in the portal, that will be translated. You can also translate the builder in the module. We've seen that. We are also coming out with a first class feature for translation support with Enterprise Form Builder module. So very excited about that on the roadmap, where you'll have a UI and a management area for the different languages you want to maintain for the actual embedded builder experience for that specifically. So that's coming as well. So that's super exciting. Can the components added by a customer be nested in a larger template? For example, the metadata needed for application integration. You can nest anything inside whatever you want. So kind of all rules apply. Whatever you could build in Form.io before, you could offer to pre-configure and then expose it as an experience for someone else to build. Some of those things might be hidden, and that's okay. So talking about metadata, if you're collecting it or something like that, you could definitely enable that. My first thought is to go to like hidden components and having those set up to collect certain things, which could be predefined where they don't even have an option to like edit them at all. It's just there. So I would see that, but definitely, again, like one of those use cases of like, absolutely. And if it's not as easy as I'm making it sound right now, please tell me and we'll make a ticket. And then Vue. We don't have a ton of people using Vue. We don't have it on our roadmap right now. We can definitely talk about what that would take, and uh, it's definitely there. We have got, of course, like everybody, competing priorities of all the things we want to do. Yeah, so I don't really have a date right now, but I would love anytime you see something and you're like, I want it, but like this, tell us, write into us, please. Support at Form.io, Heather at Form.io, however you feel like getting to us. It's important, right? Because Form.io is a self-hosted product in our customers' environments, and we don't collect any telemetry data, any kind of usage, nothing. We don't get anything, right? So we rely on the feedback from you guys to tell us what you want and what you're enjoying and what you take advantage of, what you don't, what you rely on, right? So it's important because sometimes we look at things and we assess given the information we have from our customers, and that can be hard to balance with what you're actually doing. So please let us know. We'll try to get the view on the roadmap, and we'd love to hear from you to request that formally because then we can keep you up to date. But that's what I've got on that. So again, I want to say thank you so much for being here and joining us for this webinar. We're going to have some more. We're going to be doing a webinar soon on our agentic coding tool set, which we're super excited about. And so be on the lookout for that on our website, LinkedIn, email. We'll send you an email, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Aaron, for putting all this together.
Happy to do it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.